Welcome back to Coffee with Friends. It's your host, Tyler Figueroa. And today, I'm very excited about who I have here. As many of you guys know, I am a filmmaker, photographer. I serve on my church's film team. And this one's very special to me because the person I have here is not just someone who has seen me turn from a boy to a man. He's like a father figure to me. He has helped me groom my voice as a creative more ways than he's even known that I've even expressed to him. So I'm here to introduce my pastor, my apostle, Apostle G. Morris Coleman.
Tyler, that was good.
Listen.
I'm sitting here so proud already.
Listen.
Even when you said like from boyhood to manhood, that's actually literal.
Yeah.
Because you came in here as a teen.
Yeah, fresh out of high school.
And to see you now, and just what the Lord is doing to you, I'm honored to be here.
No, I really appreciate it because it's interesting because like you've seen me like literally when I started my gift to like now like fostering as a business and to seeing like the failures, the good, the bad, seeing me like build my family, and it's great. But enough about me before I get emotional. Tell everyone who you are. Of course, I can go on and on. But tell everybody, what do you do? You're not just a pastor.
I feel like that's always a loaded question,
Listen.
right? But my name is G. Morris Coleman. I am a husband. I am a father. I'll start with those two first. But I'm also a pastor and apostle. I am a business owner, entrepreneur. I am in the music industry. I am a songwriter.
Hello.
I am a producer. I am whatever God says I
Yes.
am. I've learned to take my gift and multiply it,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna continue to do it. So let's just add a couple of commas and
Listen.
fill it in the blanks.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't even forget you're Grammy nominated now. Don't even try to shy from that.
Actually, Grammy winning.
Grammy winning. Hello? Grammy winning. You won your first Grammy
Yes.
which is phenomenal because
Yes, thank God. Praise
you
God.
like as an apostle and I've always gotten comments like even like people looking into like they're like, yo, your apostle's so cool, like that's your apostle, because I think they always think of like pastors as like they wear like the drape and like they're just a pastor.
The drape is crazy.
Listen, but I feel like you've kind of like shifted what a pastor looks like.
Wow.
To me,
Wow.
I feel like to me, because I feel like people think like pastors can just be pastors, but they can be simply more than that. Like you're like a pastor, you're a management owner. Like you help build leaders and creators. So tell us what gave you a heart to have like the burden for not just leaders, but like even like helping pastors shepherd other creators, especially in the young church, because we have a young church, we have a young demographic, and I would say like we are a creative hub, one of the creative hubs in Mount Vernon that has like, births a lot of creators. So what is that like from your perspective?
So I think, see, what's interesting is people ask me that question almost like there was a plan to do all of this. Like I set out to do this. I didn't set out to do it. I think if there is a secret, the secret is really following the steps that I believe that the Lord has ordered for me. Yeah. But also being authentically who I am. There's something that I told the Lord. I don't know who thinks they can tell the Lord anything, but there's something that I told the Lord. I said, hey, if I do this, if I decide to be this pastor, I don't want to have to change my personality.
Yeah.
There's some other things that needed to change, but I don't want to have to change my personality to become what people think that I should be. I want to be authentically me as a pastor, right? I want to be Morris, who happens to be a pastor, not Pastor Morris, right? And so I followed that. That's what I did, right? And so what you see is what you get. It's not a crafted image. This is me. Whether I'm in the pulpit, whether I'm having this conversation here, whether we go out to lunch, it's going to be the same person that you get consistently. And my hope is that I inspire other people to do the same thing. And I think that's kind of the route that the Lord has taken me, is that as other people saw me be authentically who I am, they started to ask questions, and I started to be able to pour into them. And so again, even with helping other pastors and people, I didn't set out to do that. It's just that as I was authentically who I am, the Lord just opened doors for me to show other people how to be authentically who they are. And so that's been my journey, and I'm gonna continue. It hasn't failed me, and so I'm gonna continue to be who I am authentically.
And that's good because I feel like, especially, I would say the stigma between like pastors who are like fast growing is like they feel like they kind of have to change. Like I'm not a pastor, but I just heavily follow creatives who are under pastors, and like they always say like, you know, my pastor is unreachable. Like my pastor is like, you know, like pretty much like in the church community, it's like this meme of like when mega church pastor is like the pastor is unreachable, right? Like you can't tell the pastor. It's kind of like on a celebrity status. And I feel like for me, like you changed kind of like even what like pastors look like, because and like I would say even inspire pastors, because it's like you don't have to be different. Like you can be yourself on camera and off camera. So like to that point, right? Like what is some advice you can give leaders, not just leaders or pastors, but like leaders who are over teams where they feel like when I'm leading servants, I have to be like this way versus, you know, this one other way?
I think that's probably a more complex question than you probably think. And here's why. Because I think there are people who would agree with you, and I think there are people who would disagree with you. I think there are people who would say, I am not accessible as I was, and they would be right.
Yeah.
Because each stage and each phase, it calls for something different. Yeah. And so when we started off, like when you first came, because you've been here long, you've been here a long time. You one of the OGs at this point. Like we had 100 people, and we were grateful for the 100. It's very easy to know 100 people. I shouldn't say it's easy, but it's much easier to know 100 people. It's easier to fulfill the needs of 100 people. Yeah. Well, when you now get to, you know, Easter Sunday just passed, and we, thanks be to God, we almost hit 1,000 people that we had there.
Sure did.
There is absolutely no way possible. I am a human being. There is no way that I would be able to physically touch 1,000 people. Yeah. And I think there are people who have died trying. What I will not do is die on the expectations of people who do not understand what it's like to carry the weight that pastors have to carry. And so I'm saying that because I think sometimes what seems to be celebrity is not. Sometimes that is preservation, because there is only one me, and I have to build a team that can handle some of the needs, right? When I think about Jesus feeding the multitude, right, the 5,000, Jesus did not give the bread and the fish to all 5,000 people. He sure did. He blessed it. He broke it. He gave it to the disciples, and they distributed it. He could not reach all 5,000 people, and I think that is okay. Now, on the flip side of that, because I had to preface it with that, I think there is something to celebrity culture now, where people think that they are you know, untouchable, and only a certain type of person should be able to reach them. What I'm keenly aware of is that this is not my church. Yeah. This is God's church, and I'm called to serve his people. It's his flock. And my job is to be a shepherd over the flock that he's given to me. And so I think keeping that in mind keeps me pretty humble, because I understand that at any moment he could take it away. That's number one. I think the second thing is, you know, the Bible says this: unless the Lord builds a house, they that labor in vain. Yeah. Meaning, if the Lord decides today to take 1,000 people away, that's his prerogative. He gets he can make whatever decision he wants to make, and it wouldn't be my fault. That they left. Does that make sense? It wouldn't be. So I don't shoulder the burden of what Fresh Start will be. I'm a steward of the vision that he has given to me. But God's agenda is God's agenda. And if he has to move me out of the way, he will. If he wants to elevate me, he will. I don't take all of that stuff on me. And so because I didn't build it myself, I don't have to maintain it myself.
Yeah, and that's good, because I feel like even with that, like, like we're kind of like operating like you said, like we had 100 people, and then to some people it's like fast growing, right? Like it was like you guys had 100 people, then you broke this wall down, and then you expanded, then you broke another wall down, and then we went upstairs, and then we went to another building. Like I think from that, it's like it could seem like it's fast growing, but like one thing we've done as a house is like we've literally followed the Holy Spirit. So there was, we got a new like we got moved into this building. Like the Holy Spirit told us like, hey, we're gonna have Easter at Mount Vernon High School, which even still recapping that weekend, I was like. That was mind-boggling to me because
monumental.
It was like we had 1,000 people, and like even when I looked and I saw like 1,000 people, and like even the words that we've gotten about our house, it's been like to see it, not even like to see it in full retrospect, but to see it literally a glimpse of what it could be.
Yeah,
I was just like, we got a lot to do because it's like, but even like it made me even think and even pray and kind of keep. The leaders of my house made me even want to keep you guys in prayer and keep you guys covered more because like I can only imagine like the amount of pressure that even like when we get to like the 1,000 and even the people that we shepherd online, how that like how much weight that could be.
Yeah.
So it's like even with that, like as
we're. But can I help? Can I say this?
Yeah.
Because for me, this is gonna sound crazy. I don't even subscribe to that word pressure. Go with me. It doesn't feel like pressure. It does feel like responsibility.
Yeah.
But I think there is a difference between responsibility and pressure. I think responsibility is an awareness of the magnitude of what you've been invited into. I think pressure is it's the weight that comes from feeling like it all rests on you. I don't feel like that. I think what I was very aware of early on is that, and this is a part of my call, is that I had a call to build leaders.
Yeah.
Build builders is literally my personal motto.
Yeah.
And so I invested a lot of time into people, especially early on, who could also shoulder that responsibility with me. And so I think if this was built on me, I would feel a lot of pressure. I think because I know that it is not, and there are people like you who have come along, and your wife, and really your whole family. Let's put the baby in too, right? I think knowing that, we all bear the weight of that. I think that keeps me from going into the pressure mode. Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes sense because I think like you said, I think that like even opened my eyes to thinking like it's not just you doing it by yourself. Like it's literally all of us, and it's like I think of it like. It's like the statue of like the holding the statue that's like kind of holding instead of you do it by yourself and crumbling, like you have all of us kind of like holding that weight. That's holding the weight of that. But like speak a little bit more on like as we're like fast growing and we have more people coming in and creators coming in. Yeah. The common theme I hear, and maybe you could touch on that, is like church when it comes to creators in the church, like creators aren't allowed to flourish in churches, and they feel like and because like for me I have a different story, and like even when I see that stuff I'm like like what does that like even look like? But then I also hear tales and like come across other and visited other churches where like they feel like they're boxed in. God bless, like that's not my story, but what can you say? And like again I'm gonna share my apostle now. What can you say to creators who are watching this who feel like they can't be their creative self in the church? And serve on ministry. And while serving on ministry, let their creative gifts not only be sharpened, but also flourish.
I think one of my superpowers, I want to preface it by saying this, I think one of my superpowers is being able to be objective about most situations, right? So I can see both sides of a situation. And so I'm going to deal with two different sides of this. I think the first side that I want to deal with is what is real, right? That there are places that are limiting, right? And maybe are not as open as other places to fulfilling the vision. What I've come to realize is that usually that is less about creativity and more about trust. I think when you have earned the trust of a leader, you are able to push them gently in a direction that they maybe wouldn't have gone before. I'll give you an example. Me. So it is no secret that all this cameras and stuff, like, no, don't want it. I'm not going to do it. Don't call me to it. Don't ask me for it. We're never going to do it, in fact. I've said this stuff publicly. And then, hello, there was a pandemic, and we had no other choice but to do it. But even then, there was still restrictions and like, hey, we can do this, but we're not going to do that. Yeah. But I had people who I trusted, creative people, great, amazing people, who gently, step by step, walked me through the process of unveiling their vision, watch this, within the context of my vision. I think sometimes people are trying to unveil a vision that is theirs that does not fit into the overall vision. And so, yes, we are going to bump heads and there is no room for you because you're trying to do something that's completely separate from what we're trying to build over here. And so I think it's really about developing a level of trust with leadership that gets you an audience to be able to say what it is that you desire to do. That's the first thing. I think the flip side of that is I'm concerned about any creative who believes that they cannot perform because of a box. Every painter gets a canvas.
Hold on now.
The canvas is the box.
Yeah.
I've given you a canvas. I've given you a blank canvas. This is the box. There are certain parameters to that canvas. A canvas is not endless.
Yeah.
A canvas is a certain amount of dimensions. And you have to create within the boundaries of the canvas that you have been given. And any great artist, any great creative knows how to create with what they've been given. I do not think that you're a real creative if there are no boundaries and you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think the best creatives create within boundaries. They create within borders. They create within what seems to be restriction, and they still make something amazing out of it.
Yeah.
I think that if you cannot create because of the boxes that are around your creativity, I don't think that you're a real creative yet.
Hold on now. That's good to me because I feel like even too when I hear things like that, like it makes me have kind of like a burden for the creators because it makes me feel like I'm like, dang, like not everybody's fortunate to have that. But even that kind of change, even like how I give advice out, because again, I don't ever tell anybody to leave their church.
Right.
Because again, I don't feel like.
Ask the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, facts. Like I don't feel like necessarily like you said, like the box is a bad thing. Because again, like everybody, like you said, it's about trust and stuff like that. So if you're under a pastor who does not know anything about media, slowly introduce them, slowly be like, hey, like this is what it is, this is what it could be. But not necessarily, like, make sure your vision is aligned to their vision. Because again, like, I feel like everybody in my generation is a creative or at least wants to be a creative. And sometimes it can kind of feel like they see how another church is doing it. Yeah. Like, we've even had people that came and seen Flow Nights and are like, all right, so how do you do it like this? And I'm like, well, like how we do it, like our call to do Flow Nights is, our vision behind Flow Night isn't just to have like just Maverick City 2.0. Right, it's like more so to like, we're calling people creatives, worshipers to come and we worship together. Yeah. So on that note, when people,
wait, can I say something real quick? Because I was thinking about this. Right, what's the guy, and you're gonna have to help me, filmmaker. Yeah. What's the guy's name that just came out with Sinners, the director?
Ryan Coogler.
Coogler, right? And he did Black Panther, right? He didn't start off with the budget that he got for Sinners. He didn't start off with the budget that he got for Black Panther. Yeah. He started off with low. Everybody starts off with low to no budget. Yeah. And within the confines of that budget, you've got to create something, right? There is a boundary because I don't have an exhaustive budget. I don't have a large studio that's backing me. Yeah. What can I do on the level that I am at right now? And then based on how you manage that small thing is what gives you the opportunity to have the larger thing. Yeah. And I think that there are people that are waiting to have the budget for Black Panther when, hey, no, you have to start with what you got. I have this iPhone and I got one good Sony. Yeah. And now we've got to figure out how we take that and make the best product that we can possibly do. And from there, my gift makes room for me. Yeah. And so I think some of these are just excuses. Yeah. And we are waiting for something that's larger when God is saying, with what you have now, make something great out of it.
Yeah. And that's good because honestly, like even too, like you said, with like Ryan Coogler, he started out with like Fruitvale Station, like which is like all of these movies that like, of course, as slowly as he earned the trust of different movie studios, he gained a bigger budget. And now like Sinners is one of the top films now in America. Yep. I have my thoughts on that. It was a great film, but there's also certain things about it that was like, But great film overall. Storytelling was amazing. But like you said, like with the budget thing, because like even with like this whole project, Coffee with Friends, I had this vision for this like 2 years ago, and I felt like I couldn't do it because I didn't have my own studio. I didn't have the most expensive light. I didn't have the most expensive cameras and microphones to make the audio sound crisp. But I was like heavily convicted on it because I felt like I didn't want to die knowing that someone else, that my dream was given to someone else that God called me to do. And like even as I started it, I've seen little seeds of and fruits come from this, and like even how people who have watched it and been blessed by even the 2 episodes that I've done so far.
Yeah.
But like I think even on that, like you said, with the budget and stuff like that, and just like allowing the box and like again like the creatives in the box and stuff like that. Like what can you say to creators who feel like, like I can only do this if I have this budget, uh, or I can only do this if I'm working with this person, because like I feel like again like you said we look at all these mega churches, and especially with worship nights and worship videos, and we see how there's even like the sound that comes from their team. Like what is things that we can say to even like not just church creators or pastors, but like even worship teams that feel like oh like because we don't sound like Elevation or Refresh Worship, like we can like I can't stay at this church, I have to go, because I again like we know like worship is not about performance, it's about what God using you as a conduit to reach the people. But what can you say with people that's even struggling at their own, not just church but in their own ministries on that?
Yeah, you have to create on the level that you are on, and
Mm,
that changes from time to time. When we
yeah.
first started this church, well, number one, we first started church. I was the worship leader. Like
Yeah.
I led worship right for a
Mm,
couple months, and then we got somebody else who led worship.
yeah.
One single person, and
Mm,
then eventually two more people joined,
yeah.
right? And that developed over time. What you see now is nowhere near
Yeah.
the way that we started, but it didn't stop us from doing what we felt like we were called to do and
Yeah.
giving our all, and even perfecting that one thing, right?
Yeah.
So not settling for less from the one person that we had, but
Right.
pushing that person and
Mm,
developing that person, and even just because I think the worship team is a good analogy. Like we brought people from the outside,
mm,
right? Pastor Naomi, the reason why
mm,
she's here now is because we brought her from the outside
yeah.
to pour into our worship
Mm,
team when it was only 3 people, right?
yeah.
It was only 4 people, and she worked with them and she stood. So I think if you work it,
Mm,
it will work.
right.
Whatever your it is, if you work it, it will work. I think the problem is most people are afraid to use the it that they have,
Mm,
right? God looks at Moses, right? He
mm,
gives him a command,
yeah.
and Moses is petrified, and he simply asks him one question. He says, "What is in your hand?"
Mm,
Right? That question wasn't for God's knowledge. God
right.
knew what was in his hand.
Yeah.
Moses didn't understand what was in his hand. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of creatives are underestimating or devaluing
Mm,
what has already been given to you. And you're
mm,
waiting for it to look like somebody else's.
mm,
Comparison is the thief of joy.
mm,
Um, and so you're waiting for it to look like what somebody else has. It will
yeah.
never become anything if
Yeah.
you leave it in the place of comparison,
Yeah.
right? And so I think my advisement is use it and use
Mm,
it now, but also submit it.
yeah.
I think that's another thing that creatives don't always do,
Yeah. No,
right?
it's true.
Submit your gift. Submit your gift, yes, number one to the Lord, but submit your gift to someone who is more skilled,
Mm,
someone who has greater knowledge,
mm,
information, vision, talent.
yeah.
I think mentorship is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in mentorship, but here's the thing. Here's where I think, all right, here's where I think people are going wrong. I think they are pursuing mentorship for the wrong reasons.
Mm,
So you are not pursuing mentorship for the sake um, of really promoting somebody else's vision
yeah.
and serving, being called alongside of them
Yeah.
to serve what they're doing.
Yeah.
You only see it as a stepping stone to what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think you'll never get the fullness of what you're supposed to receive if that is the motive. If the motive
Mm,
is that I'm going into this to build my own thing,
yeah.
you're never gonna get out of it what is intended, and
Mm,
you're never gonna get out of the person
mm,
what you should get out of that person. There's a different level of pour that I personally have. This is me. There's a different level of pour that I have people that I know are completely invested
Mm-hmm.
in the vision that God has given me
Yeah.
versus the people that are just here for the ride.
Yeah.
You it's
The
and I'll never tell you that.
yeah.
Well, I just spilled the secret, but you'll never fully know
Yeah.
that that's why I might have a little pullback.
Yeah.
And you might even think that you're getting it,
Mm.
right? You think that you're getting the fullness of what I have to give you, but you don't even know that I'm pulling back because God has kind of already shown me that
Yeah.
you've got a different agenda than the
Right.
agenda that we have going on. And so I think it's all of that combined that really positions a creative for whatever the next is.
Yeah. And it's good that you say that, but even about the thing of mentorship, because like even when we transition into like the production side of it, like most of you, I've spoken about this person on the channel before, but like even like with Tamika, like that was I always say it was an accidental mentorship, but not really, because I feel like God kind of used that first initial meeting and was like, all right, like showed me in a way like this person is gonna be
Yeah.
the person that positions you and skyrockets you into the next. And like
Yeah.
most of the stuff I've learned video wise has come from Tamika. Like again, like mentorship is never fully easy because hello, like
Yeah.
it's gonna come with some pushback. It's gonna come
Yep.
with like hitting walls, but even when I think of it on like a larger scale, like I don't ever regret even like the pushback or even the walls, because again, like not only like has she helped me to kind of foster my creative gifts, she's also helped me to see things that I wouldn't, me and my own flesh and ego would even
Yep.
see. So it's like even with on mentorships and stuff like that, what do you feel like people should look for in a mentor? Because again, like you said, you may wanna, and this for example, like you may wanna, like someone may want to come under you and be like, oh, I know he's a great apostle and like he's a manager and I wanna be under him to learn and just kind of like get all the oil, because like I know he's great at doing this. But like what are some things people should actually look for in a mentor before they even make that decision to just follow someone blindly?
Yeah. Before I answer that, I want to say this. Dishonor is a cap on the vessel
Mm,
that pours,
yeah.
right?
Mm,
And so when I even think about where you are and
yeah.
what I've seen you develop into,
Yeah.
and your relationship with Tamika, which any relationship with any
Yeah.
mentor like doesn't mean that there hasn't been schisms or
Yeah.
situations, but there's a level of honor
Mm,
that I know that you give to her
yeah.
that I believe has allowed her pour to be
Mm,
great enough
yeah.
for you actually to be developed and
Yeah.
to grow and to mature. And I think that that is the issue. I think people are looking for people to pour
Mm,
when they've dishonored the
yeah.
vessel. And
Mm,
it's literally a lid
yeah.
on the pour when
Yeah.
you've dishonored the vessel. So I wanted to just kind of put that out there. But I think what you look for in a mentor is, well, okay, here's one secret
Yeah.
that I don't think people want to hear. Usually, generally speaking, if your mentor has a bunch of time, that's not your mentor.
Mm,
Let that one
mm,
marinate. If your mentor has a bunch of time on their hands,
mm.
that's probably not your mentor. Because I need someone who is actually doing the
Doing
things.
things, yeah.
And somebody who's actually doing the things, their time is going to be limited. And
Mm,
so you can't be super sensitive
mm,
because I may not have an hour a day to sit with you. I may
yeah.
not have an hour a week to sit with
Mm,
you, but when I sit with you, catch what I'm
that's
pouring,
yeah.
right? And so I think that's a part of it. I think a part of it is, hey, I want somebody who is knowledgeable, but
Mm,
not just knowledgeable, but who actually has a heart to pour into other
yeah.
people, who actually wants to see other people grow and to be developed and to mature. Someone who is not self-seeking,
Mm,
right? Because there's some people that they want you to come alongside of them just so
yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
support their vision,
Right.
but they're not really in it to pour into you.
Yeah.
So I think you want somebody who's not self-seeking. um I think you want somebody who's gonna challenge you. I think a
Yeah.
mentor is supposed to rub against you in a way that causes a little bit of friction every
Yeah.
now and again. I think if that person is afraid to challenge you,
Mm,
I think it's probably not the right relationship for you.
mm,
If I can't get in your face, I'm not your mentor. If I
gotcha.
c- if also if you can't tell me the truth. I'm not your mentor.
Mm.
Right. And so there's got to be something in our relationship that allows for vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
so that I can share with you my fears and my
Yeah.
concerns and my triumphs and my
Mm.
failures because I can't speak into what you've never revealed
Yeah.
to me. And so there's got to be this relationship that allows for information to pass through freely. So I think
Yeah.
those are the basic tenets.
Yeah, and that's good because I feel like even like you said with vulnerability, like there's been times where like even with like my walk, like I haven't always stayed on the straight and narrow, but like even when
Yeah.
I started to lose my way, um, I remember like a conversation when Mika was like, "No, like you're doing this for the like if you're doing this for the wrong reasons," and I'm
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean? Like
Yeah.
what? Like I'm not like I'm supposed to be a creative," but like even with the vulnerability of like realizing like, hey, like having that because again she could have just let me just
Hmm.
rear all the way off
Yep.
and although, like, not saying that I wouldn't have been successful, but I would have been successful in the wrong way,
Yeah.
and I feel like you said, with the vulnerability, like having that, vulnerability with her, and even together, like, she's told me about myself, and I've said, like, hey, like, like, I feel like we not connected like we
Yeah.
used to.
Yeah.
Like, it was like that vulnerability. It hasn't always been easy,
Yeah.
but, like, I don't regret the vulnerability because, again, it has allowed different shells of our relationship to kind of get deeper into like the root and like allow me to even be vulnerable and be like, like, hey, like I'm not perfect, but I'm even appreciative of having someone to kind of like pull me from the edge.
But can I say this? Because
Yeah,
even that disconnect, and I think this is what people miss sometimes,
yeah,
even that disconnect sometimes is a part of the process.
yeah,
And if you're not careful, you'll think, oh, this is the end of the relationship, or I should be upset, or I should be
yeah,
angry. But sometimes a mentor actually has to pull back and give
yeah,
you space and give
mm,
you room to become and room for you to fall and to trip and to see that you ain't really got it
yeah,
together yet. That's a part of the process, and you have to even trust that.
yeah,
You can't just trust it when we're all in each other's face and
mm,
I'm just pouring
yeah,
support to you. Also have to trust it when I pull back too. That you have
mm,
to trust that I am doing what is best for you,
yeah,
even if it looks like I'm far from you.
mm. That's good. That's good. It's like you were in the
Yeah.
conversation with that.
Yeah.
But even on like to kind of like maneuver to like even like what you do, because again, like you not only do you mentor some of the people that you manage, you kind of keep them covered. So like even with that, like management and stuff like that,
Yeah.
how did you feel know that like all right, like these are the people, not just like these are the people I want to manage. Like what made you feel like all right, like I want to start managing creatives and like how not just as a manager, right? Because we see managers in one vein where it's like, all right, like I'm just giving you opportunities and stuff like that, just because like that's what I have to do.
Yeah.
But how do you maneuver with? Because like I feel like how you do it is a little bit different. Again, this is me looking
Sure.
inward,
Yeah.
but like I feel like you not only as like pastor these clients, you also look at have a different viewpoint because like you now like I'm sure like you pray and like all right like this is good for you, this may not be good for you. So
Yeah.
like even with that, people who are even think about getting into that field of management, how can they do that in a different vein without it being like such a cutthroat thing?
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I had better answers only because I feel like people want an exact science to
Mm,
something that is not that methodical. Like
yeah,
it is something that I literally walked out over time. And
yeah,
so I didn't intentionally go into management.
mm,
Um, I intentionally helped support other people's vision,
mm,
right? Different. I didn't set out for a business. I
mm,
set out to help.
mm,
I set out to support.
yeah,
How can I help you? How can I support you? How can I come alongside of you?
yeah,
Um, and a genuine desire to help people turned into a business,
mm,
right? And
yeah,
so the way you start a thing usually is the way it will end, right?
mm-hmm,
And so I started off with the intention of, hey, how do I help? How do I cover? How do I
yeah,
support? And so it's in the DNA, it's in the fabric of the
yeah,
business itself. And
mm,
so as it relates to how I manage differently, I think because it wasn't about money
mm,
and because it wasn't about industry, being in
yeah,
the industry, because I actually could care less about
well,
industry.
yeah,
I'm not impressed by it.
yeah,
Don't care. Send
yeah,
me home. Um, I think because of that, it's always been about the people.
yeah,
I think if you are in management of an artist, you
mm,
have to remember that's a person,
mm,
right? And so I manage not just a career, I manage a person. And I really try to give people what I would want
yeah,
to receive, right? And so So I'm mindful of, hey, not every opportunity is a good opportunity. Not
Mm-hmm.
every opportunity is a God opportunity,
Yep.
even if it's a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And so it's really praying through, tracing that stuff, doing your
Mm-hmm.
some of that is not prayer. Some of that is reading the fine print, looking
Mm-hmm.
through the contracts. What are the details of this agreement?
Yeah.
Also assessing people, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going in the room being the loudest person in the room. I'm probably the most quiet person in the room
Mm-hmm.
because I am assessing everything that is happening in that space. I'm assessing who this is, how they speak, how they move, what they did when they walked away from my artist,
Mm-hmm.
right? When they went over to that corner, did I see them roll their eyes after they finished that conversation with my
Mm-hmm.
art? I'm assessing all of that stuff
Yeah.
at the same time to really see who's for this person, who's not for this person.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think ultimately, I I don't separate uh, every aspect of who I am,
Yeah.
right? So I I'm not a pastor over here
Mm-hmm.
and a manager over here,
Yeah.
right? Well, if I'm a manager here, I'm bringing the pastor with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think some people try to compartmentalize a little bit too much, and
Mm-hmm.
so you're leaving aspects of who God created you to be out of the process. I'm bringing all of it into my process, and so whatever I've learned from being a pastor, whatever I've learned from building this business,
Yeah.
somebody's turned off by the church being a business, but it
Yeah.
is. Um, I'm bringing that into
Yeah.
this management business that I have over here
Yeah.
as well.
And that's good because like even on that topic of like Lord,
Compartmentalize it.
yes, thank you.
I got you
Like
covered.
I feel like even like as I'm like getting into more of like the film world and stuff like that, like real and like even going into the world that I feel like a lot like not that I feel like I used to think that like I have to carp
Compartmentalize.
thank you.
Got you.
Like my faith, not necessarily like
Yeah, I
lose
get
it,
it. I get it.
but like all right, well, I'm a Christian creative over here,
Yeah,
but when I'm a filmmaker over here, so like even for those who feel like all right, like I have to leave this Christian belt at home, like in order for me to work, because the world doesn't want to hear about Jesus, like they steer from it. Like how do you feel like creatives should even bring that part, like bring God with them, even in movie sets or gigs where they may not always be in a church or like a even like just like a church or even Christian setting.
that's like saying, and I get it because I hear
Yeah.
people say this all the time. That's like saying, how do I leave being black at home?
Mm,
What's my DNA?
yeah.
Everywhere I go, I'm black.
Right. Hello.
Hello, surprise,
Right.
I'm black, right?
Yeah.
I'm a man,
Yeah.
and everywhere I go, I'm gonna be a man.
Yeah.
I'm curious how people who have the DNA of Christ
Mm,
make decisions to leave your DNA in a place that you're not.
mm, that's right.
Well, my DNA is coming with me everywhere
Yeah.
that I go. Now, does that mean that everything has to be overtly Christian? No, it doesn't
Mm,
mean that. I don't think that everything has to be about God.
yeah.
But I do believe that everything that He expects of me,
Mm,
everything that I know to be my moral
mm,
background, everything that I know to be my moral compass,
yeah.
all of that comes with me into every project that I'm a part of, right? And
Yeah.
so, even for my artists, right, we
Yeah.
talked about management of artists. Well, I have artists that don't sing just Jesus
Yeah.
songs,
Yeah.
but in the fabric of songs that they're singing about love,
Mm,
he's in there,
yeah.
right? Even if they've never mentioned his name in it, right? And even if they're singing a song that's not a overtly Christian song,
Mm,
the space or the place that they're singing it
mm,
in, is this a good space? Is he
yeah.
welcome here?
Yeah.
Because if he's not welcome there, I'm not welcome there,
Right.
right? Because I carry the DNA of Christ,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm concerned about people who take on and off Christianity as if it was a coat.
Mm,
It's like the skin that I'm in.
yeah.
I can't take off my skin. It's
Right.
a part of who I am. And for me, that speaks more about your relationship with God than it does about your role as a creative.
Mm,
I think a person who is a real Christian, a real blood bought believer,
yeah.
I don't even know how to compromise in that way.
Yeah.
He's gonna come with me everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good because like it's such a common thing, especially in like this industry like of creatives and stuff like that, where like they feel like it's like kind of like it has to be separate. But like I feel like even with hearing that, like is like freeing for someone that's watching,
Yeah.
because it's like, we don't have to necessarily change our DNA and stuff like that. And then like it's okay, like you said, to even go into spaces where like it doesn't always have to be overly godly, but like you're still bringing that with you.
Yeah.
And like even like you may be the only Bible that someone may see in that space where it's like, oh,
Absolutely.
something's different about this person, like how they treated me, how they treated me as like a client. It was different compared to like what someone
Yeah.
who doesn't know God.
Can I just say this real quick?
Yeah.
Because I think it's also when you understanding what your mission is, right?
Mm,
Your the purpose of all of us as believers is that the light of God, the
yeah.
glory of God will be revealed through the earth.
Yeah.
We all share the same purpose.
Yeah.
All of us. Each person's assignment looks different.
Yeah.
The purpose is the same. And so if my assignment is this film,
Mm,
then I'm still trying to figure out, how do I bring the purpose into
mm,
the assignment? How do I fulfill this purpose through this assignment?
mm,
So if I have left him out,
mm,
then what's the point of the assignment?
mm, yeah.
Right? My only purpose is to glorify him. And so if this does not glorify him,
Mm,
then why am I doing it?
yeah.
You might as well pack up the camera, like wrap up everything.
Hello?
You're wasting your time,
Yeah.
because literally the Bible tells us that all of this will fade away.
Yeah.
That literally there's going to come a time where there's going to be a fire
Mm,
that that is lit,
mm,
and anything that was not of him will burn.
yeah.
It will perish.
Yeah.
Anything that was of him,
Yeah.
it will stand. And so I'm building one of my motivations in life is to be eternal. Here's what I
Mm,
mean by that. I want to leave this earth and know that my life mattered,
mm,
and that what I built outlives me,
yeah.
right? Because that is my purpose, every assignment that I get,
Yeah.
I'm looking for that. I'm looking for that to be in the thread, in the fabric of what I've produced.
Yeah.
Is this something that will outlive me? Is this something that, and when I say that, I don't mean
Yeah.
in an earthly
Yeah. Yeah.
sense. I mean that in a spiritual sense. Will the work that I am doing, will it outlive me, and will it
Right.
continue to produce in the earth
Yeah.
long as I'm going, long after I'm gone? If it doesn't, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah.
Like that's really good because like even talking about like legacy, like right, like letting you what you do be eternal. Like you're a father, right?
Yeah.
And like one of the things, like even as being a father in my own house and being a husband, like I know like I'm not gonna always be home. Like I
Mhm.
know like there may be a day where like I'm traveling months at end or I'm
Yeah.
filming
Yeah.
multiple like weeks. So like even with that, like how is that
Mm.
like even not just for me, but
Yeah.
like even people who are like, I can't be a creative and I can't travel and be a creative and also have a home.
Yeah.
Like what can you say for fathers or even mothers who are, they're called to create and travel and spread the,
Mhm.
spread what their creative gifts. Like what do you say? Like how do you what's your advice for people like that?
I think one is to embrace the fact that it is the most difficult thing that you will ever do,
Yeah.
right? To have to leave your family,
Hmm.
um, days, maybe sometimes weeks,
Yeah.
especially like a filmmaker
Yeah.
can be gone for months,
Yeah.
at a
Mm,
time, to do what you believe you've been called to do.
mm,
That is difficult. And I don't know that there is any amount of preparation for something of that magnitude. And I
yeah.
don't think that people get that until they're in it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that people get the conflict. There's
Hmm.
internal conflict that
Yeah.
happens, right? Am I doing
Yeah.
what is right? Like, is this the right thing for me to do? Is everybody going to be okay?
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you don't know. I think what you have to know, though,
Yeah.
is what you are called to.
Yeah.
It can't be just your passion.
Yeah.
I am not the person who advises people to go pursue your passion. Don't pursue
Mm,
your passion.
mm,
Pursue your call.
mm.
There's a lot of people passionate about a lot of things that have absolutely nothing to do with their purpose.
Yeah.
And so don't pursue your passion. Sorry. I remember like the show kind of changed a little bit now, but when American Idol first came out,
Yeah.
they used to show all these people like that were terrible.
Mm.
They were like awful. And you was like, is this for real? And it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, they're actually serious. They
Yeah.
really think that they can sing.
Yeah.
Those people are pursuing their passions.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody who tells people you should pursue your passions,
Mm.
you didn't see some of these people who are pursuing their passions,
Right.
because not everything you're passionate about are you good at
Yeah.
or called to. And so I think that you should only pursue what you are called to. And I think that when you are clear that
Mm-hmm.
I've been called to a thing, then you pursue that with everything in you. I think one of the things that has freed me from some of the early angst, because
Yeah.
there was angst that I
Yeah.
used to have with traveling, because it was like, I'm like, are my kids gonna be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they gonna understand this?
Yeah.
The Lord showed me that my children needed an example of what it meant to be fully committed and fully devoted
Mm.
to the work of the Lord and to purpose in life.
Yeah.
And that was my role as a father.
Mm.
I think that we have isolated what it means to be a father or a mother,
Mm-hmm.
to something that is so small,
Mm.
and linear, that we miss the fullness of what we're supposed to teach our children. I
Yeah.
want my children to know that there is someone greater than them.
Yeah.
I want them to know that. I want them to know that I love them with everything.
Mm-hmm.
But there is one that I am fully 100% committed to, and
Yeah.
that is God Himself. And
Yeah.
whatever He tells me, I'm going to do. And I want them to have that example. I want them to have the example of what it means to build something that
Yeah.
outlives them. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to have that example. I want them to have the example of what it means to be fully passionate and to be fully in love,
Yeah.
with the work that you get to do in the earth.
Yeah.
Um, I think there is a legacy in that alone that, in some ways, can supersede what maybe I deposited in them by being home every night. Because you can be home every night and not be present.
So, well, and that's good because like even too like that was like that's even still like a little angst that I've had like even. And it's like I'm not even in that yet, but it's like kind of like that. Like I'm like I have Arya, who is one of my only child, and she's my daughter. So it's like even her looking at me, like she's looking at me as an inspiration, as like what a man should be. And it's
Yeah,
like one of the things I'm like, all right, like this as I'm spending these long nights, as I'm spending time away from her,
yeah.
editing a video or doing things for socials, like does is she gonna like the time that I'm away from her, like is she gonna resent me for that when she
Mhm,
grows up?
mhm.
Because it's like I don't ever like it's like I know a lot of successful people who are doing everything I'm doing but have like a lot of strange kids,
Yeah,
and it's like I don't want that to be my story. But I also know that sometimes that fear can kind of like maneuver its way in because it's like it'll kind of become like a stumbling block. And like even as young as she is, always reminds me. She's like, oh look, daddy's doing this. Like, daddy, you editing?
yeah,
Like, you daddy? And then she'll like want to sit in my lap and see me
yeah.
do it and like will mimic the key. So it's like even with to how can we help parents who are business owners and creatives maneuver through them angst and not let them thoughts be their stumbling block.
People resent what they don't understand.
Yeah.
You resent what you don't understand. And so when something is not explained,
Yeah.
when something is not articulated, when the heart, the purpose, the intent of a thing is not known,
Yeah.
and you leave it up to somebody to figure it out,
Yeah.
resentment is going to come. When you take the time to explain,
Mhm.
when you take the time to model,
Yeah.
um, it becomes easier. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I think
Yeah.
it becomes easier for people to receive the fullness of what is happening. I think
Mhm.
the other part of that is when they get to experience it too,
Yeah.
right? So I think, with Aria, I think it's a great example,
Yeah.
right? So she is 2. Did she turn 3
Two.
yet?
She's two.
She's
Two and a
2 years
half. Yeah.
old, and she's a worshiper,
Mhm.
right? She's in the back. She's jumping. She's
Yeah.
raising her hands. We've got some other kids around here.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like it's in their DNA.
Yeah.
It's not foreign to them. This is
Yeah.
not. They don't know anything else. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like you're absent. It feels
Mhm.
like this is the way life
Yeah.
is. This is what I was born to. And so I think that I think I want to remind parents that we are called to give our children a foundation and a
Mhm.
model
Yeah.
that they can stand on when they become adults.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are pursuing God, pursuing your passions,
Yeah.
um, and showing them the love not just for God, but also love for people
Yeah.
and love for the work that you get to do, then I think you've done a job well done.
No, that's good. Like I feel like this conversation honestly has like not just helped me, but I feel like it has helped so many
You
people
getting deliverance?
break. Hello, I am because like even too like with like fatherhood, like these are like like a lot of these conversations like that I've had with people, and I was like when I'm not even crafting these episodes, because again, like a lot of times I've had the questions out and
Yeah.
somehow, some way, God maneuvers them in
Yes,
certain ways.
always.
So
Yeah.
it's like it's just been blessing me. So I would say like my final question is like, what is a deposit you could leave the creatives who are not just building a family of their own, who are in church, maneuvering through the box and trying to paint the box and figure out what they can paint through the box. Like, what is a deposit you could leave the creatives, um, just to like give them a
Yeah.
little spark and push forward.
I think our job every day is to become who we are,
Yeah,
right? To become who you are,
yeah,
right? Who God knows you to be
yeah,
already. And I think that that requires a level of focus and diligence, but I think above all things, it requires a level of patience.
yeah,
And so I want to say, be patient with yourself,
yeah,
and trust the process that God has you in,
yeah,
and trust the timing of God. I think
yeah.
his timing is better than what you think. I remember. I'll say this. I remember at 24
Mhm.
when I got saved for real.
Yeah.
Because, I was saved all my life and then I wasn't. Whatever. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But when I got saved for real, I committed my life to the Lord at 24, and I felt like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. This is it. Now
Mhm.
let's do it. You said I was gonna be a pastor.
Yeah.
24. By 25, let's pastor. And it was like the brakes were just put on my life. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm ready to go. It's go time.
Yeah.
And it was like nothing was happening. I was
Yeah.
in a church that had like 40 people on a good day,
Yeah.
and nothing was happening. It was
Mhm.
dead. And I remained like that for another 10 years. 10 years trying to figure out, wait, you told me I had all this purpose. I had this call and this
Yeah.
destiny, and I'm supposed to do this and I'm supposed to do that. And I have these
Yeah.
creative juices that are
Yeah.
flowing and I
Mhm.
can't use them here. And
Yeah.
I've been there. Um, and 10 years went by. And I'm like, I'm now 34 years old.
Mhm.
Like, my life is almost over,
Yeah.
right? Because we're dramatic.
Yeah.
And I had to just trust God. And then all of a sudden, at 35, I got a call out of nowhere. Hey, come help me, which eventually became the church that I pastored.
Mm.
And I've spent the next 10 years
Mm.
seeing the hand of God unfold
Yeah.
after 10 years of what looked like nothing was happening at
No.
all. And I think what I'm seeing, because I pastor a church full of young, energetic, beautiful, amazing creatives, but what I am seeing is that people are judging a thing before it's time,
Mm.
that people are submitting to, um, I want to say sorrow
Mm.
about something that is so far from final,
Yeah.
right? You're 25 and 27 and maybe 30 and
Yeah.
years old, and you've already made a judgment about the rest of your life. And
Mm.
to that person, I want to say, relax. Like, you still have time. God is still developing you. And if
Mm.
it hasn't happened yet, it's because there's still some things that he's working out in you, and you got to trust that process and
Mm.
remain faithful, remain committed, remain steadfast, and remain productive
Yeah.
in the midst of your process.
Yeah. No, honestly, like I really appreciate that. Like not just for me, but like even for like the people that out there who are watching this. Like, so like that is the end of our conversation. Like, thank you.
Already?
Listen. It's before the tears weep up and the bucket come. But I really appreciate you for this because it's like I feel like again like this was a very important episode for me because like we've had conversations. You've seen my process
Yeah.
and again, like as a creative, like you've also helped me. So like I appreciate this more than you know. So thank you, Apostle.
Anytime.